Stockholm has ramped up its defense spending and discarded decades of neutrality following increasing Russian aggression. The Swedish army is training the next generation in Arctic warfare to reinforce their militaries.
No one saw it coming. No one expected Sweden to be the country that would change the game. For generations, it was the land of neutrality, a place that stayed out of Europe's wars, quietly watching from the sidelines. But in 2025, that image shattered overnight. This September, Stockholm dropped a bombshell, an unprecedented $7.5 billion military deal with Ukraine, the largest in Sweden's modern history. Not just artillery, not just drones, but secret systems are so classified that officials refuse to even name them. So what are these secret systems, and why must they be saved for the battlefield? And why exactly would a nation of just 10 million people suddenly commit $7.5 billion in military aid to Ukraine? And then came the real shock. Sweden didn't just send weapons, it handed Ukraine tools it had never possessed before. Advanced surveillance aircraft, cutting-edge naval vessels, air defense platforms that can hunt drones and cruise missiles, and a promise of battlefield surprises aimed squarely at Moscow. For Ukraine, it's a lifeline. For Russia, it's a nightmare. And for NATO, it's proof that one of its newest members might be more serious than many of its oldest. Could a small Nordic country, long defined by caution, now be reshaping the balance of power in Europe? So today, we uncover the story behind Sweden's secret military deal that shocked Ukraine, and why Russia may be facing its most unpredictable adversary yet. For more than 200 years, Sweden has been famous for one thing above all: neutrality. While most European countries were drawn into wars, Sweden carefully stayed out. It avoided the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s, sat out both World War I and World War II, and even steered clear of the Cold War's superpower standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. But Sweden's neutrality wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a careful strategy developed over decades. After the chaos of the Napoleonic Wars, Swedish leaders realized that joining conflicts far from home would only bring destruction. They chose diplomacy over battle, stability over expansion, and self-reliance over alliances. For 200 years, this approach worked. Sweden became a respected voice in Europe, known as a mediator, a peacekeeper, and a problem solver, someone who could negotiate where others fought. Yet neutrality did not mean Sweden ignored its own defense. Far from it. Behind the scenes, Sweden built a strong and modern military designed to protect its territory and people. They trained soldiers, developed advanced weapons, and invested in cutting-edge technology, all while avoiding entanglements in foreign wars. Today, Sweden's military strength is clear. According to the Global Firepower Index, Sweden ranks 27th out of 145 countries, placing it among the top tier of military power in Europe. Its armed forces include thousands of trained soldiers, well-equipped Navy vessels, advanced fighter jets, and rapidly deployable units. For a country of just 10 million people, that is unbelievable. Sweden has quietly created a force capable of defending itself and influencing regional security, all while maintaining its long-standing neutral stance. But neutrality has limits. Can a nation really stay safe by staying out of the world's conflicts? And what happens when a neighbor becomes aggressive, when borders are tested, when threats are no longer distant? Is neutrality still enough to protect a nation? These are the questions Sweden faced when the war in Ukraine erupted in 2022. For decades, Sweden relied on neutrality as a shield. But as the 21st century unfolded, new patterns began to emerge that challenged the idea of safety through inaction. Sweden had been watching Russia closely for years. In 2008, Russia invaded Georgia, swiftly taking control of key territories and exposing the vulnerabilities of neighboring countries. That conflict raised alarm bells across Europe, including in Stockholm. It showed that a powerful neighbor could ignore international norms and act decisively against smaller nations. Then came 2014, Crimea. Russia annexed the peninsula from Ukraine with shocking speed and precision. The world watched in disbelief as a modern military operation altered borders in a matter of days. Sweden, still officially neutral, realized that geography and diplomacy alone could not guarantee safety. Sweden's concerns were not limited to faraway conflicts. Russian military drills in the Baltic Sea had become increasingly aggressive and frequent. Naval exercises, flyovers, and simulated attacks in proximity to Swedish territory created constant tension. Despite all this, Sweden still maintained its neutral stance. For centuries, it had survived by staying out of alliances and wars. Neutrality had been a successful strategy, but it was built on the assumption that Europe's balance of power and rules of diplomacy would hold. If you're enjoying this deep dive, please like the video and consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us bring more global insights. Now, back to the video. But what happened when those rules were broken? And the answer came in February 2022, when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Overnight, the European security landscape changed completely. The war was massive, sudden, and brutal. For Sweden, this was a wake-up call like no other. For the first time in living memory, the country saw clearly that neutrality alone could no longer guarantee survival. Sweden had to confront reality. The threats were real, present, and capable of reaching its own territory. Ukraine's struggle showed that even well-armed sovereign nations could be overrun without allies and rapid support. If Russia could invade Ukraine so decisively, what would stop it from testing the defenses of Sweden or the Baltic states? And so, Stockholm began preparing for change. Military planners accelerated modernization programs, expanded troop readiness, and reassessed defense budgets. The government began serious discussions with NATO. Public opinion, once strongly in favor of staying neutral, started shifting as well. Citizens realized that the world had changed, and Sweden could not remain on the sidelines forever. The Russian invasion of Ukraine was a catalyst in the truest sense. It shattered old mindsets, forced hard questions, and redefined what security meant for Sweden. But as Sweden confronted this reality, another question arose. One that would define the country's next chapter. If neutrality has failed, how quickly can Sweden adapt? And how far is it willing to go to ensure the safety of its citizens and the security of Europe? And the answers would require a historic shift, a rethinking of centuries of policy, a leap into NATO, and ultimately, a bold commitment to Ukraine. But joining NATO was not an easy decision. It was a political, strategic, and societal challenge that touched every corner of Swedish life. And the debate was intense. Political parties argued over the risks and benefits. Some warned that entering NATO could provoke Russia, turning Sweden from a peaceful observer into a potential target. Others insisted that joining the alliance was necessary to ensure survival in an unpredictable security environment. Public opinion was just as important. For decades, neutrality had been a source of pride for Swedish citizens. The idea of formally entering a military alliance felt like abandoning tradition. But gradually, as news of Russia's aggression in Ukraine reached every household, opinions began to shift. Polls showed a growing willingness to reconsider the old stance. People recognized that security required collaboration, not isolation. The threat was no longer hypothetical. It was right on Europe's doorstep. Behind the scenes, months of diplomatic negotiations took place. Swedish officials engaged in careful discussions with NATO leadership, weighing legal requirements, defense commitments, and political consequences. Finally, after months of deliberation and planning, the historic decision was made. In March 2024, Sweden officially joined NATO as its 32nd member. Sweden had moved from centuries of isolation to full integration with the world's most powerful military alliance. This shift was not just about defense capabilities. It was a fundamental change in mindset. The country that had once relied solely on its neutrality was now committed to standing shoulder to shoulder with allies. The implications were immediate. Sweden could now benefit from collective defense, intelligence networks, and joint training exercises. Its military modernization programs gained new momentum, knowing that Swedish forces would now operate seamlessly with NATO units. But the transformation went deeper. Joining NATO marked a change in Sweden's national identity. Even the Swedish people felt the shift. Military exercises became more visible. NATO operations included Swedish troops, and the government emphasized active participation in European security. The decision also sent a powerful signal to Russia and the world. Sweden was no longer isolated. It had allied itself with the strongest military powers in the world, ready to defend its territory and contribute to broader European security. Neutrality had been a shield. NATO membership was now a sword. But joining NATO raised an important question for the next chapter of Sweden's history. Could it now support others under threat, like Ukraine, while also protecting its own borders? Sweden was ready to step onto a larger stage, transitioning from careful observer to active defender, strategic partner, and bold supporter of European security. This wasn't a small, symbolic effort. Stockholm was investing in a comprehensive high-tech and forward-looking arsenal designed to project strength, deter aggression, and ensure that Sweden could operate confidently in a rapidly changing security environment. So let's start on the ground. Sweden's armored forces are growing. The country currently fields 110 main combat tanks, but plans to expand this fleet with 110 Leopard 2 models, a mainstay of modern European armor. These tanks are battle-tested, highly mobile platforms capable of operating in Sweden's diverse terrain, from dense forests to frozen plains, and ready to integrate with NATO forces. On the air front, the Swedish Air Force is advancing rapidly. Its backbone consists of 105 JS-39 Gripen fighters, versatile multi-role aircraft designed for both air defense and strike missions. Also, it's expanding the Gripen E fleet with 4 Embraer C-390 transport aircraft, enhancing logistics, rapid deployment, and support for the fighter wings. These upgrades allow Sweden to respond quickly to crises, both domestically and alongside allies. Sweden's naval modernization is equally impressive. Its fleet includes 5 stealthy Visby-class corvettes, which are being upgraded with advanced missile systems, radars, and sensors. These corvettes are designed to operate in the shallow and icy waters of the Baltic Sea, giving Sweden a strategic advantage in its home waters. The Navy also maintains 4 operational submarines with 2 more under construction, reinforcing the country's undersea defense and deterrence capabilities. So, Sweden is building a navy that can survive, strike, and control its regional waters, a crucial factor for both homeland security and NATO missions. And this military modernization doesn't happen on a shoestring budget. In 2025, Sweden's defense spending reached $7.72 billion, and plans are already in motion to increase investment to 3.5% of GDP by 2030. For a country of just over 10 million people, that's a serious financial commitment. Sweden's modernization also focuses on training and readiness. Its forces are being prepared for Arctic operations, a skill that few European militaries have mastered. From freezing temperatures to snow-covered landscapes, Swedish soldiers train to survive, move, and fight in extreme conditions. This Arctic expertise complements its equipment, making Sweden not just a powerful military on paper, but a highly adaptable, operationally ready force. The combination of tanks, advanced aircraft, stealthy corvettes, submarines, and Arctic-ready troops forms the backbone of a credible military. But Sweden's strategy goes beyond simple numbers. Each acquisition, each upgrade, and each new unit is designed with interoperability in mind, ensuring that Swedish forces can operate seamlessly within NATO operations. This reflects a shift in Swedish thinking. Defense is no longer just about protecting borders, but about contributing to alliance stability. So, what does all of this mean for Sweden's role on the global stage? How does a nation that once shied away from military entanglements now build a force capable of both homeland defense and alliance leadership? Because Sweden is planning for the long game. Its investments in weapons, infrastructure, and personnel are meant to deter potential aggressors while demonstrating credibility to allies. By 2030, Sweden aims to be a country that not only defends its own territory, but also plays a decisive role in NATO's northern operations, supporting partners like Finland, Norway, and the Baltic states. And this is just the beginning. Sweden's modernization isn't limited to tanks, jets, or ships. It includes advanced sensors, surveillance systems, missile technology, and logistics networks, all integrated into a cohesive defense framework. So Sweden is no longer a country that merely hopes neutrality will protect it. It has built, and is continuing to build, a military capable of meeting modern challenges head-on. If Sweden has built such a powerful and modern military so quickly, what happens when it combines these forces with active support for allies like Ukraine? How will the battlefield and even regional security shift as a result? Sweden has always been known for careful diplomacy and measured action, but in 2025, it shattered expectations. The country announced its 19th military aid package for Ukraine, a staggering 16 billion Swedish kroner, roughly $1.6 billion. This wasn't just another contribution, it was a shockwave, demonstrating that Sweden isn't just talking about supporting Ukraine, it's acting decisively, strategically, and quickly. So, what's inside this massive aid package, and why is it so important? Let's break it down. So the first standout feature is the 16 combat boat 90 vessels. These aren't ordinary patrol boats. Designed for rapid insertions, riverine operations, and coastal defense, each CB-90 can transport 21 soldiers at speeds of 40 knots, navigating narrow rivers or coastal areas with remarkable agility. For Ukraine, these boats are game changers. Why? Because Ukraine faces threats not just on land, but along its rivers and Black Sea coastline. Mines have long been a hazard, endangering commercial shipping and military movements alike. That's where unmanned mine-clearing vessels come in. By removing these hidden dangers, Ukraine can secure supply lines, export grain, and protect civilians, all while keeping soldiers out of immediate danger. Now, air power is only as effective as its logistics. Sweden understands this better than most, so part of the package includes specialized ground support vehicles for Ukraine's F-16 fighter jets. These trucks fuel, arm, and maintain aircraft quickly, allowing rapid deployment and continuous sorties. Think about it. A fighter jet might be capable of striking a target hundreds of miles away, but without proper support on the ground, it's useless. These vehicles ensure that Ukrainian jets stay in the fight longer, strike with precision, and maintain operational tempo, a critical advantage when every hour counts. Sweden is also delivering long-range drones and ground attack missiles designed to strike deep behind enemy lines. These systems let Ukraine target supply hubs, artillery positions, and command centers, weakening Russian operations without exposing frontline troops to unnecessary risk. The drones provide real-time intelligence, giving commanders better situational awareness and helping coordinate attacks with artillery and infantry. The missiles extend Ukraine's reach, ensuring that the enemy cannot operate safely even far from the front lines. This combination is not just firepower, it's a tool for shaping the battlefield and keeping Russian forces off balance. Now Sweden's package includes essential spare parts for tanks, trucks, and artillery, ensuring that previous aid remains effective. Logistics systems are included to keep supply chains moving smoothly, preventing breakdowns that could halt critical operations. Perhaps most intriguingly, Sweden is also delivering satellite communications and surveillance support. These systems allow Ukraine to coordinate across large distances, monitor enemy movements, and protect critical infrastructure. In a war where information is power, these tools are as important as tanks and missiles. One of the most striking aspects of this aid package is how quickly it's being delivered. About 70% of the equipment is scheduled to arrive in 2025, rather than trickling in over years. And why does this matter? Every week that Ukraine has access to new boats, drones, and missiles directly affects the front line, allowing it to defend territory, respond to Russian offensives, and sustain momentum. Perhaps the most important aspect of this package is that it's customized to what Ukraine actually needs. Unlike generic donations or symbolic gestures, every piece of equipment, vehicle, or system was selected based on direct Ukrainian requests. It ensures Ukraine can operate effectively, protect civilians, and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. This $1.6 billion package represents a shift in how European nations support Ukraine, showing that smaller countries can take the lead, deliver fast, and provide meaningful battlefield-ready assistance. When the world watched Russia's invasion of Ukraine, many expected NATO to act swiftly. Yet the reality was different. Bureaucracy slowed decisions, debates stretched on, and frontline soldiers waited while political leaders argued over logistics, conditions, and priorities. Unlike larger powers weighed down by committees, regulations, and transatlantic coordination issues, Sweden acted decisively. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States under President Trump expressed skepticism toward unlimited European engagement. Statements like, "If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them," sent shockwaves through Europe. Countries worried that NATO might not respond effectively if the US stepped back. That hesitation threatened both European security and Ukraine's survival. With just over 10 million people, the nation delivered billions in aid, advanced weapons, and essential logistical support, a scale of action far beyond what anyone expected from a country of its size. And in September 2025, Sweden stunned the world with its largest and most ambitious military aid commitment to Ukraine yet, 70 billion Swedish kroner. That's around $7.5 billion, set to be delivered over 2026 and 2027. Spread across 2 years, this equates to nearly 40 billion kroner, or $3.7 billion annually. To put that in perspective, this is Sweden's 20th military aid package to Ukraine, and the latest tranche alone is worth $836 million. Defense Minister Pål Jansson underscored the unprecedented scale of this commitment. Sweden is now increasing its military support to Ukraine to put greater pressure on Russia. More archers, drones, and ammunition will make a difference on the battlefield. But this package is not just about numbers. There's a secretive element. Additional systems and projects that officials say must be kept classified until they hit the battlefield. Johnson issued a warning. The Russian army can expect Swedish-Ukrainian surprises going forward. Among the most significant contributions are 2 ASC-890 airborne surveillance and control aircraft. These NATO standard platforms, equipped with state-of-the-art area radar systems, allow Ukraine to detect targets up to 450 kilometers away, track both aerial and surface threats with full 360-degree coverage, coordinate F-16 fighter operations through real-time data links, and even spot low-flying cruise missiles that evade ground radar. Ukraine has already conducted successful test flights, marking the first time the country has operated NATO standard airborne radar systems. Sweden is also dramatically upgrading Ukraine's air defense capabilities. New systems include Trident Mk2 mobile 40mm guns, capable of neutralizing drones, cruise missiles, aircraft, and armored vehicles up to 12 kilometers away. The RBS-70 missile systems, man-portable platforms with a 9-kilometer range, bring proven battlefield effectiveness to Ukrainian forces. On the naval front, 32 combat boat 90 vessels are being retrofitted with upgraded sensors, radar systems, and weapons to bolster Ukraine's coastal and riverine defense. The deal goes further than just supplying weapons. Sweden and Ukraine have signed a groundbreaking letter of intent for joint arms production, combining Swedish industrial capacity with Ukrainian battlefield innovation. This partnership allows technology transfer, collaborative development projects, and focused military aviation cooperation, including pilot training. Looking even further ahead, Sweden has opened discussions about supplying advanced Gripen E or F fighter jets to Ukraine after the war. Johnson explained, "We have a dialogue also with Ukraine, and since they certainly expressed an interest in the Gripen system, that case would be more of a long-term endeavor. If it happens, this could be a game changer for Ukraine's Air Force, fundamentally shifting its future operational capabilities." The latest Swedish package also significantly expands Ukraine's artillery and naval strength. 18 additional Archer artillery systems bring the total to 44 units, complemented by advanced 155mm ammunition with long-range strike capabilities. Coastal defenses are strengthened with mobile radar systems, grenade launchers, diving chambers, specialized marine equipment, and unmanned maritime systems. Ground mobility is enhanced with 500 motorcycles, while air bases receive vital support equipment, including trucks and tractors. Additionally, Sweden contributes $68 million in coalition funding to further sustain operational readiness. This aid is not just about Ukraine. Johnson highlighted the broader strategic picture, declaring full solidarity with Poland after recent Russian drone incursions and pledging immediate NATO coordinated support. The package demonstrates Sweden's growing role in regional security, solidifying its position as a decisive NATO member. By delivering a comprehensive package spanning air defense, naval capabilities, artillery, joint production, and classified systems, Sweden has established one of the most significant bilateral military partnerships to emerge from the Ukraine conflict. It's a model of how smaller nations can lead, innovate, and reshape security dynamics even among global powers. So, Sweden's transformation is striking. Once a neutral mediator, carefully avoiding conflicts for over 2 centuries, the country has now stepped firmly onto the front lines as a defender of Europe's democratic stability. This shift sends 3 powerful messages. First, it proves that even a small nation can lead through decisive action, showing that size isn't always the measure of influence. Second, the sheer scale and precision of Sweden's aid package could alter the course of the war, giving Ukraine the tools and support it urgently needs. And third, it is a clear signal to Russia. The era of taking advantage of neutral states is over. By acting boldly, rapidly, and strategically, Sweden may have just redefined what military support looks like in 2025. Not just for Ukraine, but for the entire European security landscape. If you found this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into geopolitics. We would love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.